When you're born, you quickly fall into the arms of your parents, right, so to speak, and they raise you, quote unquote. Right? They kind of do everything they can to make sure you stay alive, but they also kind of heavily condition you in specific ways, right? They make it so that you don't pee on the floor or poop your pants and stuff like that. They kind of condition you in a lot of different ways, right? They even, language, right? They teach you their language, right? Whatever language that your parents know, they give that to you, right? They pass it on to you. They condition you to speak their language and to act in their specific ways, right? And, usually they would also pass on their religion to you, right? If you have Christian parents, they're going to make it so that, when you're extremely young, that you see Christianity in a very favorable way, right? Or if you have Muslim parents, your Muslim parents are going to make it so that you see Islam as sort of like the truth, as sort of like a positive thing and stuff, and they're going to kind of condition you to see their beliefs as true and stuff, and like that. And this is this type of brainwashing and indoctrination starts when you're literally just a baby, right? That's bizarre, isn't that insane, right? And, when you're a baby, then you start to develop into a toddler, right? Then you're instantly kind of put into a schooling system, right? Into some type of education center and whatever, right? Nursery school, right, or kindergarten, or whatever you like to call it, right? When you're becoming a toddler, you're put into this type of this place of learning, so to speak, right? And then the teachers, they kind of take over the role of your parents, right? They start to kind of mold you in their way, right? They give you pieces of information that you kind of have to just learn and accept and stuff, and then they keep molding you and stuff, and then you reach primary school, right? Primary school. Or some, you might be from America or some other place, whatever you have for primary school is just kind of, if you have high school, but there's something before high school, that's what primary school is, or middle school, that's what, if you're from North America or some other place, middle school. But anyway, you're in primary school, middle school, whatever. Teachers, they start molding you and conditioning you and brainwashing you still, right? But of course, I'm not being, I don't see this as necessarily a bad thing, right? Because, in those early years of schooling and education, right, you learn how to write and read. You learn how to do basic stuff like arithmetic and mathematics and stuff like that. So it's not all bad, right? And then, from primary school, middle school, you start to enter secondary school and high school and stuff like that. And the education process gets a little bit more advanced and stuff. This is when types of dogma or types of ideologies, you start to get exposed to them, right? This is when you start to learn a little bit about politics, right? When you enter secondary school and high school and stuff like that. And then, they start to kind of condition you a little bit, they start to kind of, the indoctrination process starts to get a little bit more more impactful, right? This is when they start to teach you types of morality, what's ethical, what's good and bad and stuff. Again, this is when you start to learn about politics, when you enter secondary school, high school and stuff. And then of course, after this is all finished, you start to enter college. And in college, that's when you start to, that's when the politics, various different political ideologies, they're literally trying to come after you, right? They're literally getting pushed into your face, right? And this is when you start to get very, this is when you start to get more, it's extremely hard to determine, but I would say more fundamental, more indoctrinated, more manipulated and stuff. When you're in these upper echelons of education and stuff, you start to get more manipulated and indoctrinated and kind of, brainwashed. And then, after this, for most of you, you just get a regular job, you earn money, and then you have a family and stuff. And then you grow old, and then you die, and the same process happens for your children and stuff. It's just an endless cycle that continues on, right? Every generation and stuff. And so it's kind of a little bit scary, right? It's like some type of it's like a very dark comedy, right? And this process of indoctrination just keeps happening generation after generation, and only a few people kind of shake the chains away and break free and stuff. But they're very rare. Indoctrination, brainwashing, conditioning, all of this happens to every one of us, right? At all stages of our life, right? Societal conditioning and brainwashing and indoctrination, you can feel it right now. Right? If you walk outside, right? If you're naked, right? Let's just hypothetically say, like, you walk outside with no clothes on, right? You start to like kind of go to like more public places where there are a lot of people and stuff. You're gonna start to get a lot of bad looks. People are gonna kind of let you know that you're not doing something right. They're gonna probably kind of maybe even assault you, right? Depending on where you go with no clothes on and stuff. And that's kind of, this can show you how conditioned you are, like how manipulated you are by societal norms and stuff. And of course, I don't think that this is really a bad thing, of course. If no one wants to see like a bunch of naked people going around the street outside and stuff. So, there's a lot of benefits to this type of societal conditioning and stuff. But, you have to be aware, right, that you're being manipulated and conditioned by this type of by these forces, right, that you're constantly exposed to, right? But this is to kind of get into something a lot more sinister, right? Movies, cartoons, other forms of it's kind of extremely hard to term it, but human art captured behind a camera, like stuff you watch on a type of screen, right? Yeah, that's I guarantee a lot of you probably were growing up watched Disney movies and stuff like that. These movies, they shaped your sense of right and wrong, right? They kind of tainted your views on like what's good and bad, like your views on morality, your views on a lot of different things and stuff. And these views have been kind of hammered into your brain, right? Again, a lot of people aren't even aware of this. It's kind of bizarre, right? At such an early age, you're being conditioned and manipulated and brainwashed and indoctrinated. It's kind of scary, right? But this indoctrination process continues until you, at all of this, all throughout your life, this indoctrination process follows you, right? The conditioning doesn't stop, right? You're always getting conditioned, right? And it's kind of, you have to kind of think about this and stuff. Movies, they usually have the characters, any type of Marvel movie, right? There's a good guy, right? And he does these specific things, and that's what makes him good. And there's a bad guy, and he does these specific things, and that's what makes him bad. But that's just conditioning, right? You've been conditioned to see these, like the good guy, the archetype of the hero, right? As that being like what's good and as what's morally right. You've been conditioned to see like the archetype of the bad guy, right? As something sinister and evil, something that you should not even consider, right? These archetypes were engineered by just us. They were completely made up, and and they influence our sense of morality, and it's kind of insane, right? Of course, a lot of people argue good and bad and morals. It's just the way it is, right? What are you talking about, right? There's no we were killing people is bad and stuff. That's how it is. Okay, but when the military kills people, right? The military of any country, right? Is that bad? Let's just say it involves some type of war and conflict with another nation. Is that bad, right? A lot of people say, yeah. But, a lot of people still enroll and enlist in the military, right? They fund the military indirectly and stuff. Whatever nation they belong to, right? They fund the military of their nations and stuff. And they kind of turn their eyes away when their military organization goes around other countries and starts to kill people. Is killing animals bad, right? This is kind of a lot more interesting because this kind of ties into veganism, right? Killing animals, is that bad? A lot of people say no, it's because we need it for food and stuff, and for staying healthy. So no, we need to kill animals, it's necessary and stuff. So it's different than killing people. Okay, is that true? Are you sure about that? Of course, a lot of this is subjectivity, right? But you can see quickly, you can kind of easily see what I'm talking about, right? Like our sense of what's right and wrong, morality, all of it's just kind of, it gets conditioned into our brains, right? We get conditioned through whatever we're watching, whatever we're exposed to and stuff. And this, we start to internalize this conditioning, and like these outside influences, they start to literally go inside into our brains and into our minds, and they remodify everything. Like they alter our understanding of it, the entire world. And this is like very shocking, and you have to kind of be aware of this, right? You have to be aware that, you know, all throughout your life you've been kind of manipulated and stuff, and indoctrinated and conditioned. You've essentially been kind of enslaved by other people's ideas and beliefs and ways of understanding the world and stuff. And that's kind of, you have to kind of think about that, and, you know, maybe, I don't know, become more self-aware.